Hi, I'm Jamie and this is a climate change impact assessment for the City of Glasgow. I'm going to talk a bit about the history of Glasgow as a city, the past climate and the current climate, the projected future changes in the climate, and finally the impact that climate change is expected to have in the city. So Glasgow is the most populous city in Scotland and the third most populous in the UK. As of June 2016, the population of Glasgow was 621,000 people. The wider metropolitan area surrounding Glasgow has a population of 1.7 million people. Glasgow is located on the banks of the River Clyde on the west side of Scotland's Central Belt, which is the most populous region of the country. The history of Glasgow traces back to prehistoric times when a human settlement was first constructed on the site. And then Glasgow could be considered a city from the 12th century onwards due to the construction of Glasgow Cathedral or St Mungo's Cathedral, named after the patron saint. Today, there are a few manufacturing companies that still operate, such as BAE Systems and Weir Group. The other key industries that operate in the city include retail, tourism, higher education, financial and business services, biosciences, and space.
The city centre of Glasgow is built in a grid-like arrangement with many high-rise multi-storey buildings. The most common type of housing in Glasgow are tenements, distinguished by their blood-red sandstone colour and their distinct architecture. Glasgow's surrounding area consists of built-up suburban towns, including the new towns of East Kilbride, Glenrothes, Cumbernauld and Livingston, which were all built after the Second World War. There are a variety of building types in these towns, including tower blocks, single and two-storey houses and commercial premises. The surrounding area of Glasgow is well served by road and rail infrastructure, and many people commute from these outer areas to the city centre on a daily basis.
Glasgow is a temperate climate with relatively cool summers and cool winters. There are few extremes of temperature, and the range of temperatures is relatively narrow compared to other parts of the world. Using Met Office data from 1981 to 2010, the average annual precipitation in Glasgow was 1,245 millimetres. The average maximum temperature is 12.9 degrees Celsius, and the average minimum temperature is 6.2 degrees Celsius. In winter, the average minimum temperature is 1.8 degrees Celsius. Snowfall is relatively infrequent and it doesn't last on the ground for very long. In summer, the average maximum temperature is 19.7 degrees Celsius. Summers can vary from being cool and wet to warm and dry, quite often in the space of one day. However, there are relatively few periods of long, dry spells during the summer months in Glasgow. One of the most severe weather events ever to hit the city of Glasgow was the Great Storm in January 1968. Gusts of wind up to 140 mph hit the city. As a consequence, 250,000 homes were damaged, 2,000 people were made homeless. 20 people lost their lives due to the storm, and following the repair work, a further 30 people also lost their lives. Even more recently, in 2018, in March, Storm Emma hit the city, resulting in cold temperatures and heavy snowfall. And in September time, Storm Ali hit the city, which resulted in high wind speeds and heavy rain. Today though, the weather's quite good. UK Climate Projections 2009 provide projected changes for the climate in the West of Scotland region. The following numbers are based on a medium emissions scenario, which corresponds to A1B scenario from the IPCC SRES report. That's the Intergovernmental Panel Climate Change Special Report on Emissions Scenarios.
By the 2050s, the mean summer temperature is predicted to rise by 2.4 degrees Celsius. The mean winter temperature is predicted to rise by 2 degrees Celsius. The mean summer precipitation is predicted to fall by 13%. The mean winter precipitation is predicted to rise by 15%. The number of heavy rain days when rainfall exceeds 25 millimetres are predicted to increase by a factor between 1 to 3.5 by the 2080s, and sea level rise for the west coast of Scotland is predicted to rise by 27.5 to 30 centimetres by 2095. One of the main impacts that climate change will have on Glasgow is flooding due to the rise in winter precipitation and an increase in days of heavy rainfall. The video currently shows the north side of the River Clyde. This area, encompassing Glasgow city centre, is classed as a potentially vulnerable area by the Scottish Environmental Protection Agency and has experienced flooding in the past. CPI estimate that, due to climate change, the number of residential properties at risk of flooding will increase by 60% and non-residential properties by 80%. The key transport links of Glasgow Central train station, the M8 and M74 motorways all fall within this vulnerable area. An increase in flooding and severe weather events will result in an increased risk of damage to transport infrastructure, such as the examples given. Damage or closure of key transport links such as these will have a significant impact on the economy of Glasgow and central Scotland. The M8 is the main motorway between Glasgow and Edinburgh, whilst the M74 is one of the main motorways south to England. Many people rely on these transport lines to commute to work each day. Other key transport infrastructure at risk of flooding includes the Erskine Bridge and the M74 motorway at Hamilton, both key road links on the outskirts of Glasgow. Another key impact of climate change will be overheating due to the urban heat island effect. Glasgow is already experiencing the impact of this, with the hottest day ever recorded in summer 2018 with a temperature of 31.9 degrees Celsius. Some buildings are not designed to cope with these temperatures, as evidenced by the Glasgow Science Centre, where the roof melted. Buildings in Glasgow are designed to be well insulated to retain heat during cold winters, but not for warm summers, when ventilation is required. Some potential solutions to reduce the impact of overheating could include planting more trees, providing shade for public spaces, and changing building construction to improve natural ventilation. One potential benefit of a rise in temperature is a reduction in heating requirements and fewer cold-related deaths. Fuel poverty is a significant issue in Glasgow. As of August 2016, 34% of Glasgow residents were classed as living in fuel poverty. An increase in ambient temperature will mean that individuals will need to spend less money on heating their homes. It's the poorest people in Glasgow, however, that will be most affected by climate change due to increases in severe weather, summer temperatures and increased flooding risks, as evidenced by a recent report carried out by Climate Ready Clyde. One potential benefit of climate change in Glasgow could be an increase in tourism. In 2017, 3.2 million tourists visited Glasgow, spending £2.3 billion. An increase in temperature may encourage more tourists to visit the city, as studies have shown that tourists prefer a warm, dry climate. However, this may be counteracted by an increase in precipitation during the winter months, which may deter tourists from visiting the city. A number of hospitals in the wider Glasgow metropolitan area are at risk of flooding. This includes the Royal Alexandra Hospital in Paisley and the Vale of Leven Hospital in Alexandria. This has the potential to place additional pressures on the hospitals within Glasgow city centre if surrounding hospitals are unable to handle them due to flood damage. The West Highland train line travels along the North Clyde coastline. This is a popular tourist attraction and provides access to a remote area of Scotland from Glasgow. If coastal erosion accelerates due to rising sea levels, then several hundred metres of this train line will be under threat. Other key transboundary impacts in Glasgow include severe weather damage to oil and gas infrastructure, impacting energy supply, increases in agricultural productivity, coupled with increased prevalence of pests and diseases, impacting the security of food supply, damage to telecommunications infrastructure due to flooding and severe weather, a key utility for Glasgow businesses and residents.
In conclusion, Glasgow as a city is well placed to adapt to climate change due to our wealth. Due to our wealth, the wealth of Scotland and the wealth of the UK, and also a historic responsibility for global emissions, we need to take a lead in adapting and mitigating climate change. Our generation and future generations will see the benefit when we do.